mentioned at the top of the show, Martin O'Neill has spoken about Celtic's, I was going to say transfer activity, but lack of transfer activity is probably more appropriate. They've recalled Stephen Welsh. He is obviously he's been on at loan at Motherwell. By all accounts, has done very, very well at Motherwell this season. Been one of the standout players in that really impressive Motherwell team. But he's back to Celtic, presumably at first at least to sit on the bench.
Yeah. One of our comments came in earlier suggesting that Trusty pulled up at the end of the game. Austin Trusty pulled up a little bit at the end of Saturday's game. That's a concern. I think that is a concern for the medical team at Celtic as well, which would leave them short, no doubt about it. I think Martin O'Neill's almost apologetic in the way that he's having to do this. I think that there was a certain a window of opportunity to recall Stephen Welsh, and he's obviously chosen to do that because, as he says himself, needs must. But it's far from ideal, obviously, and a far from ideal transfer window, and a far from ideal season, and a far from ideal kind of series of flops in the market for Celtic. I think that the reason that Martin O'Neill sounded almost apologetic is that he knows how much Stephen Welsh is enjoying himself at Motherwell this season. He's getting regular game time, which was the whole idea. But who knew he was going to end up playing such a key role in the best-looking team in the country?
Yeah,
which is what Motherwell have been, I think. And I think, you know, Martin O'Neill, as I said at the start, top of the show, Dan, I think he's exploring the opportunity of allowing Stephen Welsh to go back to Motherwell on loan before the end of this window. Once Celtic get the finger out and get a bit of business done, if that happens.
Well, I mean, there's been talk in the media about Aberdeen potentially making an offer for him. This comment here says Welsh has been brought back to help broker a deal with Hibs for Bowie. Watch this space. But am I not right in saying you can't play for more than 2 clubs in one season? So if Welsh steps on the pitch for Celtic, he can only go back to Motherwell.
Yeah,
I think I'm right in saying that.
Yeah,
aye, so that would make sense.
It's a 12-month rule.
Aye. So, I mean, but just to go back to Celtic for just before we finish, why are they so inept? What is going on? This is just it's beyond bad. It's bordering on ridiculous now. And we've heard that.
Well, people will say, Daniel, that there's still 3 weeks of the window left.
Aye, okay, I get that.
So calm down.
okay.
That's what some people will say. Aye. But I think it's perfectly legitimate for Celtic supporters to be looking and scratching their heads going, what is going on here? Because it's not as if they've been blindsided by this. January comes around every year, right at the start of the year, if the Celtic board hasn't noticed. They sold their top striker this time 12 months ago. They failed to replace him. They've sold his understudy, failed to replace him. They had to be aware that January was coming, and they better be seen to be busy. And it absolutely, especially given how the optics look around the Celtic board right now, they should have been breaking their necks to get people rolled out through the front door on day 1, day 2, day 3. Yep. Look, we're sorry, we've made mistakes in the past. Not this time, guys. And now you've got Martin O'Neill coming out and saying the same kind of things that you heard Brendan Rodgers say. And Brendan Rodgers got eviscerated for it. And his character assassinated by Dermot Desmond. This kind of rinse and repeat and going back to what you know. I mean, you could even argue that's Steve Welsh coming back as Steve Welsh replacement. having failed to get Kyogo back. It's got to a point where the Celtic board now look like a complete busted flush, incapable of original thought, incapable of rationale. They're just making muddled, panic-stricken decisions, and more often than not, it's go back to what we once did. Go back to that guy, we had him before. Where's the imagination?
No.
Where's the ambition? Where's the professionalism? And you know, so look, there is still plenty of time. Do you know, I actually said in the summer window, Celtic will buy, don't worry about it. They will spend significant sums before the end of the transfer window, and they didn't. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. But I think the chances are that they will. But who knows?
The thing is, I know
because they're so muddled.
They've obviously got to the 31st of January, but then they've got Bologna coming up on, I think, the 21st. They've got Tynecastle on the 25th. I mean, that game stands out like a beacon. They need to have at least one striker in by then. But I wouldn't hold my breath.
If they don't, then it's a dereliction of duty, not for the first time, but it's also an insult to Martin O'Neill.
Yeah.
They've brought this guy. This guy is doing a heroic job at trying to hold the fort for the second time. And if they don't get bodies in to give him a reasonable chance, there's no point, by the way, signing a player on the 23rd of January saying we've done our work. Here's one. A guy gets one training session before he goes into a potential title showdown at Tynecastle. Are you kidding?
I know. That's crazy.
So no, this is why I think in normal circumstances, you would say, look, there's loads of time. There'll be activity. There'll be signings made. But there's an urgency about this transfer window. And it's been caused by what Celtic's board had failed to do in previous windows, which makes it even more important. So, 100%, I completely get whether there are Celtic fans out there saying, no, this isn't good enough. There should have been bodies lined up in that door in the first 3-4 days of the transfer window. And it's no matter what comes in the transfer window, and maybe there'll be a nice surprise for Celtic supporters. I doubt it, but there might be. But it doesn't excuse the fact that they knew January was coming and they really ought to have had some business ready to sign off on to give Martin O'Neill the optimum opportunity of turning this season around. He is trying to perform miracles, but he can't do it all on his own. I mean, I'm perfectly sure if Martin O'Neill could access Celtic's money vault, he'd been out there. He'd be driving around the country, picking up players and bringing them to Lennoxtown.
Aye.
So what are these guys do?
The Celtic squad as it stands doesn't win the Premiership. No one will convince me otherwise.